Hi everybody and good morning. Welcome to our very last Twitch live stream. This is our last week of our class. We're in week number 8. Today is November 29th. Sorry I sound all scratchy in my throat, fighting a little bit of like a sinus infection or something from all the wind and dry weather. But we are in our last week. My cats are losing it behind me. So I want to take a few minutes today and just kind of go over the final remaining requirements of our class, see if you have any questions for me. And again, this will be the last time that we do this semester. So thank you so much for those of you who are joining me live. And if you're watching this later, thank you for that as well. But let me go ahead and get started here so that we can get through this. I want to be respectful of your time. But we are in week number 8. Right, today is November 29th, and our class officially ends this Friday night at 11:59 p.m. And I'm going to say that a few times. I'll remind you a few times. Normally we end on Sundays, right? But this class does end on Friday night, so please be mindful of that. Be aware of that. Don't forget. Make sure you get everything in by Friday night. I'm going to put that in the chat here really quickly. Just a quick reminder that, again, our class ends this Friday night at 11:59 p.m. So we are in week 7 and 8. So let's go ahead and jump into that and look at what we have going on. We didn't have a live stream last week because of the holiday, but don't forget all of week 7 materials have been open since last week. So don't forget to cover the unit on stress and health and psychological disorders, two kind of very interesting topics. I'm sure stress is something that you are all very familiar with at this point in the semester. But make sure that you read the chapters. Of course, watch the lecture videos and take notes. Read through all of the lecture materials that I have for you. Don't forget discussions 13 and 14 as we covered last week. And then this week, week number 8, we are in chapters 15 and 16, the last 2 chapters of our class. So we're looking at my fat cat running back and forth through the house, right? We are looking at the therapies and then social psychology. So make sure you read chapter 15 and 16 in the ebook. And then, of course, read through my lectures, watch the lecture video and take notes. Anything on all 3 of those components will be on the exam. And then we have the 2 discussions this week. So discussion number 15 and 16. Let's take a quick look at those together. As always, watch my little lecture video tip things that I have right here, my little video prompt to kind of give you some reminders and help. Don't forget to read through everybody's discussions, respond to my questions, and then also appear like you've been doing all semester long. This one is all about therapy. So first, what are some stereotypes of therapy that either you hold personally, maybe you've seen in the media, or you've heard from others? Like, for example, I can't help but think of like, how does that make you feel? Right? Or tell me more about that. So what are some stereotypes that you have about therapy, the therapist, people who go to therapy, anything related to therapy? How would you describe the stereotypical therapist? What are some things that therapists might say or do? What about their appearance? Anything about therapists in general? And then the bulk of your points are going to come from this last bullet. Using the lecture, the textbook, or the website right here below. If you were to consider going to therapy, which 2 of the therapeutic approaches that are mentioned would be your top choices and why? I want you to describe the type of therapy, the goals, at least one technique that they would use. Make sure you're referencing specifics of that approach to demonstrate your understanding and in order to receive full credit. So let's say that you're really interested in trying out EMDR. You would describe what EMDR is, how it works, what are the goals, right? You would kind of highlight all of that. I have a website here that has a bunch of different approaches that are kind of atypical or like uncommon, in addition to the ones that I covered in the book and also in the lecture. So you're really highlighting 2 of them and kind of describing and going into some detail. The other discussion that you have for this week, if I go back, discussion number 16. This one is looking at social psychology, our last discussion for the semester for our 8-week class. As always, again, watch my video. Make sure that you're reading through everything, being detailed in your responses, replying to a classmate. This one, you're going to perform 3 random acts of kindness or altruism These ideally should be unplanned and random. They can vary from something quite small to something bigger, depending on the situation and whatever inspires you. I want you to describe these. What did you do? What were the reactions? Share your thoughts and anything that came up. This can be on someone in your home if you don't feel comfortable going out. It can be on a random stranger that you don't know. I went to Starbucks this morning to get some coffee and I held the door open for somebody, right? That could be a small, unplanned, random act, or it could be something, again, much bigger, totally up to you. But you'll describe what you did and how it went and how you felt and how they reacted and so on. I want you to describe a time where you were the victim of prejudice or discrimination. This could be based on your race, age, ethnicity, orientation, gender, religion, ability, anything that you were maybe discriminated or felt prejudice against. Briefly share what happened, what your reactions were. If you are lucky enough to never have been a victim of prejudice or discrimination, you could describe something in the life of somebody you know. And then what are some strategies that people can employ to help reduce prejudice and discrimination, something that you can find in the lecture and also in the textbook. So those are your two discussions for this week, the last two of our class, the last two of the semester. You also have exam number 4, which you're taking, of course, on the ebook site. Now, I want you to note that exam number 4 is just a 4th test. It is the final, but it is just a 4th exam. If you click here, you can get that study guide. And remember, if it's on the study guide, you do need to know it for the test. If it's not on here, you can let it go. You don't need to worry about it. But this test will cover chapters 13, 14, 15, and 16. So anything that is on here, make sure you're familiar with it. You can answer questions about it. As always, I would really recommend that you study and prepare. Make sure that you have good internet. Make sure that you have a quiet place. Do not wait until Friday night at the last minute. Again, remember Friday night, our class ends on Friday this time around. But try not to wait. Get it done earlier in the week. Set yourself up for success. We're going to have some rainy weather later in the week. I hope, fingers crossed, have some rainy weather. So, that's obviously makes your risk of the internet going out or like power outages and things a little bit higher. So just make sure you're planning ahead for that. You also have a closing assignment that I want to take a few minutes to talk about, along with an anonymous closing survey and the extra credit. So just a few more things for us to kind of cover really quickly. The closing assignment is my way of giving you a cumulative element without testing you cumulatively. And I think this is much kinder. Rather than having to study everything from the entire semester, you're going to write a short paper where you reflect back on 5 concepts from our class that you can apply to your life in some way. And I hope you have more than 5, but at least 5 of them. So here are the instructions. Let's take a look at that. This is where you're going to be submitting the assignment, just like you would with the extra credit. So you'll submit it by clicking Start Assignment. And here's all the instructions. So you're going to think back over the course and think of 5 examples of things that you can apply to your life, 5 terms or concepts. And then you're going to follow a very specific format. This isn't a traditional paper in the sense that you don't have to have paragraphs and transitions. You're going to give me the term from the concept list, and I'll show that to you in a moment. You're going to define it. This can be from the textbook. It can be from your lecture. You can copy this, verbatim. That's totally fine. The bulk of your grade is going to come from explaining how you could make this into something you would apply, right? How could this make sense of something that happened? How could it guide you in a real life situation? Give me some information about how you could apply that information to your life. So maybe in the classical conditioning chapter or the operant conditioning, you were thinking about positive reinforcement, and then you would define it. And then you could take some time to talk about how you could use positive reinforcement to encourage you to not procrastinate or to get your paper done on time, and how that would work and so on. So that's your goal with this, is you're going to do that 5 times. You're going to number your examples 1 through 5. This is obviously something that will be typed since you're submitting it here online. I've given you the rubric. This is worth 25 points. So basically 5 points per concept. And you're going to be attaching this file. So a couple other things with this, if we go back here to the previous page. I gave you a list of concepts, and you can come up with anything that we covered all semester long. But if you're like, oh my gosh, we covered so much, like I don't know where to begin, I went through each chapter and kind of gave you some of the big ideas or concepts that we've covered, in hopes that might help you. So you could pick anything that's on here, or again, anything that we've covered all semester long. I also gave you a sample submission, so this is what your paper should look like. Again, notice that it's not a traditional paper, right? It's numbered, so we have term 1, term 2, term 3, and so on. You're giving me the term or concept, the definition, and then like a paragraph talking about how you would apply it. And you're just going to follow that 5 times, and it's worth up to 25 points. So that is due by this Friday night at 11:59 p.m. Again, when the class, before the class ends, and it's worth 25 points. So it's definitely worth more than a discussion, obviously less than an exam. So spend some time on it. Make sure that you put some thought and effort into it. You also have a quick anonymous closing class survey. This isn't worth any points, but it does have a couple of questions. I would love your feedback. Please feel free to be honest. It's anonymous. I won't know who said what, but I'd like you to tell me, is there anything that you would have liked to know about this class before taking it to make it a better experience? I want you to rate your responses to each statement. Which class component did you like the most and the least? What feedback would you give me about the ebook and the ebook site? And do you have any closing comments that you would like to share with me? So that's my way of just gathering some information so I can try to make the class better. I'm always trying to improve and make it clear and understandable. The last thing that you have this week is the extra credit. And so if you're watching this live, which a bunch of you are joining me, which is nice. Thank you for being here with me. I will give you that extra question here in just a moment. And if you're watching this later as a recording, as long as you are subscribed, you may still do that for extra credit. And that leads me to my last chance to remind you of that. If your subscription has expired, please take a moment to subscribe one last time, especially if you're watching this later and would like to get those 2 points of extra credit. But a lot of you have expired at this point. I know our class is pretty much over, but if you have the chance to renew that one last time, I would definitely appreciate it. It saves me a bunch of time. Otherwise, what I will do here is I will give you that extra credit question in the chat, and then I'll see if there's any questions for me. Again, hard to believe that our class is pretty much over, but let me give you this, and then I'll see if there are any questions and just kind of quick reminders one more time. So the extra credit question for this week, if someone had a phobia of heights, what are 2 different methods that could be used for treatment? Name them and describe them. So if someone had a phobia of heights, what are 2 methods that could be used for treatment? Please name and describe them. When you're ready to answer that, you'll go to Twitch extra credit number 8 right here and click on that. And then up here at the top, you can click on Start Assignment. And this is where you can type your response in the box and then go ahead and hit Submit. And that'll give you the little confetti burst and or those balloons, right? And then 2 points of extra credit. So please feel free to take advantage of this. Those of you who've been doing it all semester, that's fantastic. That's a good 16 points of extra credit, which would make up for a missed discussion or maybe a lower exam score. So you can still do this. And again, remember, if you're not watching this live, just make sure that you are subscribed so that I can see that you did watch it. And if your subscription has expired, please take a moment to renew it. Otherwise, I think those are the big things. This has been a great little 8-week class. It went really fast, right? Feels like it just started in a way. It's already almost December. Thursday is December 1st, which is just wild. You can see my Christmas tree behind me or my fake tree that's back there, ready for Christmas. So if you have any questions about anything from this week, anything from last week, the exams, the discussion, any of that kind of stuff, I will hang out for a little bit, and you are welcome to ask me in the chat. Otherwise, one last time, please remember that our class ends Friday night at 11:59 p.m. So this Friday at 11:59. If you miss that and you email me Saturday or Sunday, I will feel so bad for you, but it will be too late. So just please be really mindful and aware of that. Thank you so much for those of you joining me live. Thank you for those of you who've joined me multiple times this semester. I've really appreciated and enjoyed your company. I know I can't see you, but it is still nice to have you here. So thank you so much for doing that. I hope you all have a wonderful winter break, and I wish you the best of luck with the rest of your semesters and your finals and everything that you have coming up. Speaking of stress and health for this week and last week. But I'm going to minimize my video. I will hang out for a little while if you have any questions. Otherwise, again, good luck. Hang in there. And if you liked this class, feel free to consider taking like abnormal psych or human sexuality or research methods with me in the future. Research methods is online, and I teach it in a very similar way if you like the format of this class. But otherwise, again, take care. I'll hang out for a few minutes if you have any questions. And thank you all again for a wonderful short semester.